Hello, my name is Wenyu, and I am applying for the master program in drama and movement therapy. Thank you for providing me this opportunity to share my experiences and motivation with you today. To answer the first question regarding my understanding of the Sesame approach, my understanding is that Sesame is a non-confrontational therapy. It prioritizes the body and imagination over direct analysis. It really starts with the founder, Marianne Lindis. Her motivation was deeply personal, and her son, Billy, was nonverbal. So Marianne realized she needed a way to communicate beyond words. She found a language of movement, touch, and sound. The name Sesame actually came to her in a dream about Alibaba. Just like the command "Open Sesame" reveals a cave of treasure, this approach opens the unconscious mind. The treasure is the healing potential locked inside. Sesame is simply the key to opening that door safely. So what makes Sesame unique is that it blends 5 distinct strands together. So the first one is Jungian psychology. This provides the container. It allows us to work safely with the unconscious using symbols and archetypes. The second one is Laban movement analysis. This is our diagnostic tool. It helps us understand a client's inner emotional state by observing their physical movement. The third one is Peter Slay's child drama, and this emphasizes the necessity of play. It views play not just as fun, but as a biological survival mechanism to heal our inner child. And the fourth one is the Billy Lindis method. This focuses on movement with touch. It targets the pre-verbal experience using sound and touch to build trust and grounding. And finally, there is myth and story. So this is what we call the oblique approach. Instead of confronting trauma head-on, we use metaphors to process it safely from the side. So from my perspective as a psychology student, I believe Sesame is uniquely positioned to help because it engages our whole brain. We often get stuck in our left brain, that is the side of logic and rigid expectations, and it is where our anxiety lives. But Sesame invites us into our right brain. This is the home of imagery and intuition. I believe the power lies in a balance. The structure for the session provides safety, but the content, the myths, and movement allows us to finally be authentic. Well, I have to admit that I haven't yet had the privilege of experiencing a Sesame session in person. However, through my reading, I have developed a keen interest, particularly in the intersection of movement and fairy tales. So these interests actually come from a pressing observation regarding my own generation. In my country, I see there's a profound cutoff between our mind and the body. So we overuse our minds, obsessing over what we haven't achieved while ignoring our bodies always full of tension. We treat our bodies like transport to our brains rather than a home for our feelings. I realized this disconnection during a recent movement workshop. The facilitator didn't ask us to analyze our current problems, but simply to feel our current physical states, to locate where our stress is and release it through the movement. The shift was immediate. I stopped being just a floating brain and felt grounded and integrated. So this is my understanding of why the Sesame approach is so vital. It uses movement and story to bypass the anxious mind and restore that essential wholeness. And this understanding of the approach leads directly to my reasons for applying to this specific program. So my primary motivation is actually pretty personal because coming from a psychology background, I have spent most of my life living in my head, focusing on research, writing, and theory. To be honest, I often find it difficult to connect with my own body. However, I don't view this resistance as a weakness. I see it as my driven force. I need to understand my own struggle with embodiment because I believe grappling with my own resistance is the only way I can authentically help clients navigate theirs. And academically, I have already seen the proof that this works. From my undergraduate capstone project, I conducted a study titled The Impact of Role-Playing on Stress Levels Among Young Adults. I compared a drama-based role-playing group against a speech-focused control group. The results was undeniable. The data showed me that the role-playing group has significantly reduced anxiety compared to those who just use words. However, this research also highlighted a gap in my knowledge. The study proved that it worked, but the statistics couldn't fully explain how. I saw the numbers change on my spreadsheet, but I felt like I was observing the healing from the outside. I realized that quantitative data maybe can measure the results, but only deep embodied training can help me understand the process. So this is exactly why I choose Central. I read Professor Richard Ogan's work on group processes, and it proved the context my study was missing. He explains how a group's shared safety can lower anxiety and how symbolic stories allow people to process feelings without being overwhelmed. And this explained my data perfectly. My participants felt better because the role-play provided a safe container. I am applying to Central because I want to learn how to build that container. Beyond my academic studies, my real understanding of this work comes from two specific experiences. One is personal and one is professional. First, on a personal level, during my undergraduate years, I felt quite isolated, constantly hunched over data sets and coding scripts. To break this cycle, I joined a production of Dear Evan Hansen musical. We moved from staring at our screens to using breath, voice, and movement. I found that stepping into a character forced me to stop rehearsing my worries and start rehearsing connection. It was the first time I felt truly free to feel. And second, I saw how this works for others while tutoring children with leukemia. Because of their illness, they were often shy and socially withdrawn. Traditional teaching maybe can't really reach them, so I introduced movement. For example, to teach them with mass directions, we didn't just write them down, we physically moved our bodies to point and orient ourselves as a group. And the change was visible. Their social words came down, and one child even told me that, well, I think math is like a game now. I later realized this aligns with a research conducted by Bade All in 2008. It wasn't just play. The rhythmic bilateral movement was actually regulating their attention and emotions. Witnessing that regulation firsthand, seeing how movement opened them up with words feel, is exactly why I want to train as a therapist. So I have two main questions, and one is about placements and supervision focus. I'm really interested in placement that focus on stress and anxiety reduction in young people. Within the program, I want to ask how our placement themes match, and are there any supervisors or partner sites with a specific interest in anxiety or stress outcomes? If so, what is the process of signaling this interest and being paired? Should I contact potential supervisors in advance, or is that coordinated centrally? And my second question is about how can I prepare culturally for story, myth, and fairy tale. Since in drama therapy, I understand that there's a lot of work just on fairy tales and myths. May I ask, what do you recommend for international students like me to build cultural fluency with UK story traditions while also bringing our own? And are there reading lists, story banks, or seminars on cultural adaptation and ethical use of symbols? And that's all of my questions. Thank you.